Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay, today we're going to be making a basket. It's based on a Midwestern Indian tribes basket, but it'll get us into a place where we're making templates to make our forms. In your modules, I have provided you with directions on how to make your template. I'd go ahead and do this first and maybe cut out more than one so you're not caught up short when you go to make this. So again, we're going to have to throw out our slabs, and I try and move them around so that the surface I'm working on doesn't get saturated. You can see that this area is a little wetter than up in here. If I worked too long on this area and it got soaked, the clay slab would definitely stick. Okay. Now, if you have your template already made, then you can tell if you flattened it out enough. And also, again, we don't want this super thick. Let's try and keep it under a 1/2 inch. It's a little more than that now. Let's see if I can. Oops, missed my board. Okay. As it gets soaked, I move it to a different board. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So, next step is to smooth it out. And we're going to smooth out both sides. We don't want any textures that we accidentally pick up, because we want to give this the textures that we choose. And I've got some ideas in mind for mine. You can do any texture you want. While I'm on this was about 4 or 5 pounds of clay. And before I started to chuck it down on these boards, I shaped it more or less. I started paddling around so that when I started, I didn't have that many throws down onto my board before I got this nice smooth surface. We've got our slab all rolled out to the thickness that we'd like. And our next step is to cut out our form. I've got a template here, and I've got directions on how to make it in the modules. And you'll notice I have it marked, and I'm going to show you what that means. This is going to come together like so to make, okay, all right, paper doesn't stand, but it gives you, we're going to stand it up to make this form. I want to texture this a little before I get going. I've got a yardstick. You don't have to do this, but you can. Okay. It's kind of random. We'll see how it works out. Now I'm going to need to flip this because I want that texture to be on the outside. So I'm going to do that. And we're ready to go. Now I'm going to put our template on here. And we're going to cut it out. These little markings here tell me whether I want to cut at an angle out or an angle in. And the reason for that is that so these seams will meet at a 45-degree angle which will be much more stable. And the two ends will be cut just at 90 degrees. So you're going to need a knife for this project, paring knife type thing. Okay. Now, when I hit an area that says in, I want to cut that at 45 degrees. I can. 45 degrees in. And then when I get to an out, I'm going to turn my knife around and cut it at 45 degrees out. There'll be a little roughness where they meet. Don't get too hung up about that just yet, because we can clean that up as we go. Okay. All right, we'll flip it over and do the other side. It's very handy to write on these sides whether you cut in or out. I can't really remember without doing that. And you run the risk, if you don't do it, of not being able to join them very well. Okay, so that's our slab cut. You can go over this a little bit if you like. The next step, though, will be to score and slip this thing, okay? And I made myself some slip. And I took some clay and I added a little water and I have it mixed up. It's about mayonnaise consistency. I don't have a formula. You can just eyeball it. It doesn't need to be exact. Now if I flip this baby, I can score and slip these other edges. It's nice to have a little pot of slip made up of whatever clay you're using. So when you go to put some things together, you don't have to stop and start again. Okay. So here we go. Let's clean our area off a little bit. Now the other thing that I have to help are two towels. I'm going to use these to prop up the ends. So I'm going to press those two sides together. And one of the things that helps me do that is I made this little, I covered a little plastic bottle with fabric so they can push on my seams without them all becoming all mangly. You could use a paper towel. So let's see. Put that there. So I'm going to lift this up. And I'm going to join two sides. So you will need to have your clay leather hard, but not too hard or it'll crack. And you don't want to have to be too soft. It'll just be impossible to get it together, okay? Now, I've got some little gaps in here that I should be able to fill and patch with coils on the inside. I'm using my fingers on this side. I'm just going to be pushing it out a little to kind of restore that form a little bit. I want a little happy basket. Okay, so you can see the lines that I made with my yardstick coming through, and it's kind of nice because you never know how they're going to work themselves into the shape. So I've got these little corners that are going to need a little more reinforcing, which I can do because I can get my hand in there, so no worries about that. The next thing I want to do, make some coils, and I'm going to attach coils all the way to the inside. So I joined all my seams on the inside with coils, right? And I'm feeling pretty good about that. Now I'm going to set this on a little towel because I want this thing to have a little bit of a bow like baskets often do. And I'm going to push down in the corners with my finger to give it a little foot. To sit on. And then it doesn't look finished at the top like so many pots, so we're going to want to give it a little different rim. And I have rolled out a very thin slab. And I've cut one side, and so now I'm going to go ahead and just cut the other side. I don't care what kind of rim you give it, as long as you do. Part of this project you'll be graded on is to have a rim of some kind and to use textures if you can. I've got a little piece of car mat that I like to use for texture. Oops. Shows you how. I want this slab to be super wet so that it's real easy to join with my other surface. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to I'm not sure exactly the length I want, so I wanted to make sure that it was longer than I need. Okay. Where's that pot? There it is. It's okay. So now I've got my pot. I better give it a little slip too, right? And you don't want to put a flood on, but because it'll squish all out and you'll have a heck of a problem cleaning it. So there we go, there's that, and now I'm going to want to sort of drape this on. And okay, while holding on to that, I'm going to cut this. Cut that. Almost wanted to crack there, but I was able to, because it's so wet, I was able to push it back together. Okay. And now I want to just drape it over. Okay. So All right, so that thickened up the rim. The texture gave it a little different focal point, a little more interest. I'm liking it so far, but I think it could use a little something over on the side. And so what I've rolled out is I rolled out 2 of these little coils, okay? And I'm thinking of giving them a little bit of a handle treatment on the side. I can either go that way, which if I put my handle like so, and it sort of makes it feel heavy, which I really don't want more of that. So I'm going to put it the other way. Okay, and how did I arrive at that? I have a piece of all thread, and I'm just going to roll this super wet comb on my all thread, and I'm pushing as hard as I can without mangling it so that it'll acquire that texture, okay? And it's wet enough that I can roll it up like a caterpillar, which is kind of what I wanted to do, okay? Now, this end thing is sticking out into space, so I don't want to just leave that there. Again, I'm going to make a little indentation. When we go to glaze it, that will pick up a little extra thick glaze, and it'll just be one more thing that'll make it nice. I'm pushing from the inside out. Okay, good. Now, so far so good. I am going to add one more thing though. I have cut out a couple of triangles of clay, okay? I had a piece of paper, same kind of paper for the original template, and I rolled my texture on that, and so now what I want to do is just give it a little bit of secret sauce there. I want to put these right in the middle. It'll break up that surface with some more texture. So, and again, all of these breaks in texture and lines, the glazes are going to break over those lines and give us kind of a little free area of interest. Okay, so there's our basket form. I've given you on the website a couple other historical examples. These were birch baskets made in the Midwest, and I've included another video from another woman, a Minnesota potter. So between the two of them, have fun, and this is going to be your last wet clay project. So do as good a job as you can, and we'll be glazing next time. Okay, all right, see ya.